Welcome back, aliens. My name is Navin Reddy, and let's continue with the series on JavaScript. Okay, that's not the thing, right? We are here to talk about Java. So this is our first live session where we are doing a programming. In fact, we have done that before. There's a gap of 2 years, so this will be the first one in the current time, and this will not be the last one. That's what I'm thinking. So we'll be doing more live sessions on different languages. I know we had a poll, and everyone voted for Python. That Python was winning the pool, but then looking at the comments, I thought, hey, let's start with Java. Let me also be comfortable with this type of system. Once we are comfortable, because I'm more comfortable in Java, I have worked on Java for a long time, so we can talk about it. And the amazing thing is, I have not worked on Java for the last 2 years. So that will be a challenging stuff, right? But yeah, so I have been into Java for last 10 years, and I have made some awesome projects in Java. So basically, I love Java. So if you ask me which is my favorite language, now depend upon the audience, of course. At this point, since I'm teaching JavaScript online, so I can say, hey, I love JavaScript, but that's not the case. I love Java. But yeah, you have to be flexible to work on different languages. Okay, so before even starting, I just want to know your comfort level on Java. So the session will depend upon you. Okay, I don't have a fixed pattern. This is what we're going to teach. It all depends upon what you want to learn, and of course, the majority will win. So what I did before is before when I started this session, even before starting the session, I shared a poll uh, where I'm asking you for your comfortness on Java. So what I will do is I will just reshare the poll. You can check the comment sections or the chat. I've shared a link. Go to that link and give a poll. I'm using that website for the first time. I'm not even sure if that really works, but why not? Let's try it out. And let me just check the results here. And also, I will share this link with you. I'm not sure if you can see the results. Let me just share that with you. How the results looks like. Okay, how do I share my screen? That's weird. The problem is I'm using multiple screens here, and it's actually very difficult. That too on Sunday morning. Okay, so don't worry. We'll be having a long sessions. We'll talk about most of the stuff, and I'm really very excited. This is the first time when I'm going live in the morning, and the current views we are getting is 1,000 views. Okay, that's amazing. I'm very happy actually. Uh, just to share with you, yesterday I was not feeling well in the at the night time, so I thought, hey, let's postpone this. But then I was so excited to come live, talk to you people. So we are doing it. Okay, so let's do that. So we already got 200 votes, and most of you are saying you have learned Java. That's great. So that means you know the basics, right? But still, we'll start with some basics because we still have people who are new to Java. You can see they are saying, what is Java? Okay, so we got few people who have made some projects in Java. That's great. This will be a revision session for them. And it's actually very important, revising what you have learned is actually difficult because we don't have enough resources where you can revise. You can learn, but making a revision takes time. So we'll make it quick. So in this 6 hours, of course, you can actually revise your concepts. There are two here who are experts, so you can help me in this session. If I get stuck somewhere, it's you who will be helping me here. And then we have three votes. Who says they are Rajnikant of Java world? Okay, that's amazing. Uh, okay, so let's spend 10 more seconds here. So please vote so that I will know how should I start this session and what should be my approach. So this is a Sunday morning, and okay, great. So I guess we are done. So maximum votes are going for they have learned Java. So that is what we will be concentrating on. But don't worry if you are new to Java. Uh, we will be talking about those stuff as well. It's just that we just have 6 hours with us, and I want to make maximum out of that time. Okay, so we'll make this next session exciting. I will take your questions, and you also be active on the chat window. Okay, don't just keep this live session aside. Okay, focus. Okay, concentrate. It's very important. I might give you some tips in between. I'm not even sure what I'm going to talk about. So stay tuned. Uh, and that's amazing, right? When you don't have a scripted session, normally when I make videos, most of them are scripted, right? I know what I'm going to talk about. Live, it's amazing. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. The flow will be depend upon you. Okay. So still some people are voting. In fact, what I will do is I will just reshare the link so that it will be on the top for you if you want to continue with the voting. Okay, so let me just talk about Java. So what? Let me just stop this screen share. Okay, so let's talk about what is Java. Now, Java is one of the most amazing programming language ever made. Okay, why I'm saying it's most amazing? See, the thing is, the moment you look at the world of internet, the moment you talk about the world of websites or enterprise market, you will see Java everywhere. Okay, and even if you go for the interviews, the most famous or most common language in the interviews is Java. See, there are different reasons for it. One, Java is a very structured language. Now, when I say it's a very structured language, it simply means if you have worked on Java, if you have learned Java, every line makes sense. Trust me, every line makes sense. I'm not saying other languages don't make sense, but then in Java, it is more structured. There will not be any point where you will say, hey, what's that? I mean, example, when I was researching on JavaScript, there were a lot of points where I was like, oh, I could have used the F word there, but since we are online, I just have to skip it. So the problem is, uh, there are so many languages. They are amazing. I love JavaScript. I love Python. I love C language, but Java has amazing features. It is more structured. Java is also object oriented, which means you can actually build projects looking at the scenarios around you. See, in the world where we live in, everything is object, right? Example, I'm able to communicate with you. I mean, I can share my face because I have a camera. I can type something because I have a keyboard, right? I can enjoy my tea because I have a cup, right? So everything in Java makes sense, and it's widely used because it follows OOPS concept. And second, the reason which is so famous is because of the feature it provides, which is the platform independent. Okay, now what that means. See, before Java came in 1985. Okay, so before Java, most of the languages were not platform independent, which means if you write your code for one machine, example, let's say on this side I have let's say Mac. On this Mac machine, if I write a code, only that machine I mean that code will run only on that machine. If I have to shift to another machine, I have to recompile. Of course, the same source code will work, but then I have to recompile the files. I hope you know what is compiling means. So every time you work on a language, you have to first compile your code. Okay. Example, C language, C++. In fact, JavaScript now is compiled. So you have to compile your code, right? And after compiling, you will get something. You will get a file. Now, if it is platform dependent language, which means you can't use the same file. Okay, you have to recompile it. I just need to check the comments once if the video is lagging. So let me know if the video is lagging. Anyone? And please don't spam. We will make sure that you are. So if you're spamming, we will kick you out of this chat. Okay. Please don't spam. At least on Monday morning, on Sunday morning. Don't do that. Okay. Yeah. So where was I? I was talking about, yeah, platform independent. So the same code, the same file will run on multiple OS. Okay. That's what Java provides you. Okay, so Java is a language which supports OOPS. It is platform independent, and it has some more features. We'll talk about that one by one. Now the question is where you will write Java code. That's the first question. Second, where we will be using it. So Java will be used. I mean, Java is getting used everywhere. Yes, day by day the craze is going down. It's not like Java is going down. It's like other languages are getting the hype. Okay. Example, JavaScript is everywhere because of you can write full stack applications. Python is famous because of machine learning. Java is famous in the enterprise world. So if you go for the job interviews and if you go for big companies, even if they are not using Java for their projects, the interview questions will be based on Java. I don't know. They have the interviewers knows only about Java. Maybe that's the case, but that's the scenario, right? You have to learn Java. So Java using Java, you can build enterprise application. I mean, enterprise application simply means let's say Amazon. Okay, so if you want to build the entire website of Amazon, it's not just the thing you see on the screen, right? There's so much thing happening behind the scene. So the back end of Amazon, you can build it on Java. I'm not saying they're using Java. You can build it on Java. Next, you can use Java to build mobile application. Android, right? Yeah. So the new language using which you can actually you actually write Android application is Kotlin. Most of them prefer Kotlin now, but Kotlin is actually derived from Java. So if you are learning Java, you are actually learning multiple languages. Okay. Then you can also use Java to make a mobile application, enterprise application, desktop application if you want to create one, but we don't do that nowadays. But that's the thing. Uh, Java can be used for blockchain. Java can be used for AI. So we have some libraries you can using which you can do that. Okay. So I guess enough of talking. We can get started. I just need to check if everything is good. It's actually very tricky, you know. Okay. So yeah, that's right. The cup was a tribute to Java. Okay. So I'm not actually drinking coffee now. I'm drinking tea, but that's weird. So the logo of Java is a cup, right, where you have that vapors coming out. Cool. So let's get started. So let me share my screen. So I'm sharing my screen here, and here we go. So that was the poll result, and you can still see the results. It's we got 500 votes, and people are still voting. But then, okay, that's we are done with that. Now we know what our audience is here. Let me just share the thing. Okay, so we are learning what? So we are learning a language which is Java, and why I'm not able to open this. Okay, cool. Okay, so basically we are going to start with a language called Java. So I will be using this whiteboard as our, because we can't use animation in the real time, so we will be using a whiteboard here. Okay, so how do I get started? So first of all, where I will write a code. See, you can write a code on any IDE or any software. Okay, so you can write a code on Notepad. You can write a code on VS Code. So let me know which is your favorite IDE in the chat window, and I'm sure based on which language you like. So people who like Java, they will select something else. People who work on Python or JavaScript, they will write something else. So let me know your favorite editor. Okay. Uh, So most of you are saying Eclipse. Oh, that's good. Okay, so basically, to write a code, we need to use some kind of IDE. Now, based on which language you prefer, example, when I work on JavaScript or Python, mostly for JavaScript, we use VS Code, right? VS Code is very famous. In fact, you can write all the codes which we are doing here in VS Code, and you can see the chat window is just spammed. I can see so many comments. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, cool. So you can use VS Code, which is one of the amazing IDE you can find online. In fact, I am working more on VS Code nowadays than on any IDE. But then for Java, which makes much more sense, is of course VS Code is good, but then you can have a special kind of IDE specially made for Java. And one of the best one in the market when it comes to free one is Eclipse. I have actually worked on Eclipse a lot of time. So I spent, as I mentioned, I spent 10 years in Java, right? So Eclipse is one of my favorite IDE. But before that, I used to work on NetBeans. I'm not sure if you know about NetBeans. It was amazing, but they're not doing good updates on that. But if you look at the enterprise market now, they're not using Eclipse anymore. They have moved towards IntelliJ. Now the only problem is IntelliJ has two versions, which is a community edition and they have the enterprise edition. I forgot what they call the enterprise edition, but yeah, they have two editions. One is community, one is enterprise, and there's also for education. I have not explored the education one. I wanted to for this live session, but I was not able. I've not got enough time to explore that. Maybe next time I will try this education version on IntelliJ. But today we are going to use the community version because it is free. Okay, The enterprise one, you have to pay for it. Now, how will you get the IntelliJ idea? It's very simple. You just need to go to Google. What's that? Actually, I'm not able to switch the windows properly. Okay, so let me just go to Google and search for IntelliJ. And you know what happened? Yesterday I was not feeling well. In the morning, it started raining at my place. And second, the internet was not working. Thankfully, internet came back 5 minutes prior to the session. Uh, so there were a lot of things against the live session, but we did it. We are live. Great. So if you search for IntelliJ on Google, this is what you will see. And you have to click on download. Now, this is one of the amazing IDE available, provided you know how to use it. Okay, so if you are new to IntelliJ, it's a bit tricky, but it's an amazing IDE. Okay, will this session will be recorded? Yes. The session will be recorded and it will be available. So every time we go live, it is by default available on the YouTube, right? So don't worry. Provided YouTube is not doing any weird stuff, it will be available. Okay, so you can see we have two things. We have ultimate version. Yeah, so it's not enterprise version. It is ultimate version and community version. Community version is free. You can use it. You can use it for core Java and you can use it for the Android development. But if you want to go for enterprise development and web development, ultimate is preferred. It's not like you can't do that on community version, but you have to do settings by yourself. Not recommended, but yeah. And I always believe if you are sure you are going to work on IntelliJ for a long time, and if you think you will be building big projects, why not? It's not that costly if you are earning, of course. Okay, so let's download the community version. So when you click on this download, it will give you the setup and you can install it. It's very simple. Just say next, next, next. But before that, you also need Java version. So we will be downloading Java 8. In fact, you need JDK 8 download. Now, the only problem here is, see, the latest version of Java is Java. Uh, yeah, so Java was Java 15, right? I guess Java 15 is latest, or Java 14. I'm not sure. But we will be using Java 8. Why Java 8 is because in the industry, the most famous one is Java 8. Okay, so I don't know. I'm so sorry, but looking at the current views, this is the highest which we got till now. I'm feeling a bit emotional because uh, I was thinking, Sunday morning no one will join, but we got a good crowd. That's amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Okay, so you have to download the JDK 8 version. Now the only problem is, if you are using for personal use, that's fine, okay? But if you are using JDK 8 from Oracle, you need to pay for it. I know that sounds weird, but you need to pay for it. So you can see there's an option of Java SE subscription. Oh, uh, this is one of the reasons why I moved away from Java. It's not like I don't like Java, but the moment Oracle started doing this, most of them started moving away from Java because they started the subscription based. So basically, if you are building Java projects using Oracle JDK, you need to pay for the subscription. You have to pay for it. But then don't worry, we got OpenJDK, which is the open source version. So if you search for OpenJDK, so instead of downloading Oracle JDK, which is not for us, it is only for the enterprise market, because they do provide support, okay? But we don't want support, right? We know how to work on Java, so we will be using OpenJDK 8, okay? And okay, but then which one? So you can go for actually OpenJDK, which is open source version, and the only problem is they will not provide you support. So let's say if you are working on a project and if you need some features or if you need some security updates, you might not get instantly. So in that case, one of the best one is Correcto. Oh, not Correcto. Yeah. What's wrong with what? Am I spelling it correctly? JDK. Oh, my bad, my bad. The spelling was wrong. So instead of using Oracle JDK, instead of using OpenJDK, we will be using Correcto, which is based on OpenJDK, but it also provides you support. So you can see Amazon Correcto is actually a production ready distribution of OpenJDK. Okay, so I would recommend you to use this. Okay, now why I'm not using the 11 version or 8 version is because we are not looking at those features. Most of the companies are still using Java 8. So let's do that, because here we are here to understand the Java concept, right? The version will have some minor updates. You can learn that later. As of now, we are here to learn the basics. Okay, someone says the quality is not good. So let me know in the chat window, everyone, is the quality is good? Can you see the font? It's very important, right? We are spending 3 hours together. So I just want to make sure that you can actually see what is happening on the screen. How do I check the quality? Mhm. Okay, I think quality is good. That's what I can see on my screen. So make sure that sorry. Yeah, there was an echo. Improve your quality. That you're saying for the audience, right? Not for me. So I'm making sure that I'm streaming in the best quality available. Um, okay, so let me also remove my face from here. Let me just go for full screen. Okay, so that you can see it properly. So basically, you have Amazon Connector, which you are going to use. Okay, so you have to click on download, and you will get the setup. So complete this setup first. So before even downloading the IntelliJ, make sure that you have Connector, then download IntelliJ, and then get started. So Connector is also available in 8. The 11 is the long-term support version, and 16 is the latest version. Okay. Uh, Let me increase my font size. That's what I can see. Okay, great. So you can download Amazon Connector, then you can get the IntelliJ. Now, once you have these two things on your machine, we are good to go. Okay, so when you say good to go, that means what? So we have a setup, we have IDE. Now it's time to open the IDE here. And there's one more thing. Okay, so if you're watching this on mobile phone, by default on mobile network, YouTube make sure that you watch in 480p, as someone mentioned. So make sure that you increase that. And I can't go on 1080 because the software which I'm using only supports 720. Yeah, I know I'm poor. So you can support me by doing super chats. Next time I will make sure that I get a proper one. These softwares are very costly actually, which I'm using for streaming. Which one you should go for? I would suggest go for 8, Amazon Connector 8. And the streaming software, okay, the streaming software just got weird. Okay, so I will also add you here in this live. Okay, so basically we got Correcto. Of course, you can do that later. And second, you can also um, yeah. So we also got IntelliJ. Right now, IntelliJ is an IDE. So IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So when I say integrated, it simply means you can write a code there. You can compile your code there. You can run your code there. You can debug your code there. You can add plugins. You can build a WAR file or a jar file which you can deploy on the server. Everything at one place. That's why we say it is integrated development environment. And the version which we are using is the software which we are using is IntelliJ. Okay. So how do I work with IntelliJ? It's very simple. The moment you install IntelliJ and when you open it, this is what you will see. Okay, not the website I'm talking about. This is software. So it says, "Welcome to IntelliJ IDEA." Slow mode, please. Yeah, in fact, I wanted to do that. I wanted to enable the slow mode, but in the morning I was so in a hurry, I was not able to find where I will get this slow mode. Okay, I got it. Let me just enable slow mode so that you people will be under control. Okay, what is my earning? I make 1 billion in a month. 1 billion Satoshi. Oh, that's way high. Right? Okay, so once you got your IntelliJ IDE, this is what you will get. They will be asking you to create a new project. Okay, so let me create. Yeah, so there's a question. Can we use VS Code for this for Java, yes, we can, but then I prefer to use full-fledged IDE for Java when I work on Java projects. So this, yeah, this is so this the IntelliJ IDE is actually similar to PyCharm. Reason, they both are from the same company. Okay, so they both are the products of JetBrains. Um, okay, so let me create a new project. So the moment you click on new project, you will get an option. So you have to select which version you are going with. So you can see we got SDK, which is 30. I guess in this version I have two. How do I verify that? So you can open command prompt. So once you got your command prompt, I just need to increase the font size. I don't know if you can see my command prompt here. Let me just set the layout font as 24. Okay, so on my command prompt, I will say Java version. That's how you can verify if you have Java installed. So yeah, I do have Java 8 installed. Okay, so I will choose that Java 8 which we have installed. So make sure that when you install, you should get this option here. If you are not getting this option on this screen, which I can see, what went wrong would be this. You need to set the environment variables. Not always, but sometimes it do mess up. Okay, let me open that window. So you in your start menu, just type environment variable. You will get this system properties. Go to environment variables and make sure that you have Java path. And I will be having a Java path here somewhere. If you don't have, either you will be having in system variables or the user variables. I guess it was there in system variables. Yeah, there is a Java path, and in my machine I have Oracle. Okay, anyway, I can use Corretto as well. Okay, on this machine I have MS. On this machine I have Oracle. The Mac I will use. It has Corretto for the development purpose. Cool. So here you can just add. Okay, so you can click on new and you can specify the variable name. In fact, you can edit the variable and you can click on new and you can paste the JDK link. So C drive program files and you can go to that path and you can paste it. And once you paste, click on OK and restart your machine just for the to be on safe side. And you will see the option of Java 8 here. Okay. Cool. Now, once you have that, do you want to add some extra features? Do you want Groovy or do you want Kotlin? No, we are here just to learn Java, right? So let's do that. And click on Next. It will ask you for, do you want to create a command line? By default, that's what we want to do, right? So don't select. Click on Next. We'll say this is Telesco Live as my Java project name. And always make sure that you write proper package name, project name, variable names. Okay, and you can see we got our project. I guess IntelliJ IDEA just crashed. Oh no, it's not crashed. Cool. So you can see we got. So it will give you some tips. We don't want tips, so let's close that. And there's one more thing. We will follow this pattern. Since I can't speak for 3 hours continuously, and plus you cannot be attentive for 3 hours continuously, so we'll take a break in between. So we'll be taking a break at after every 50 minutes. So we started at 9, so we'll take a break at 9:50, and then we'll take a break till 10 a.m. So for 10 minutes gap, and then we'll continue. And that's right. You're never going to learn a language just by watching a video. You have to practice this. So once this session gets over, make sure you practice. Okay. So basically, what we have done till now is we have worked. We got IntelliJ, right? So we got IntelliJ. Java is installed. The next thing we are going to do here. Okay. So the next thing we are going to do here is we'll write our first code. Okay. Now, which is the first code we're going to write? Of course, right? Whenever you start a new language, you have to start with hello world. Now, why hello world is because we have installed the software for the first time, right? And when you do something for the first time, it's always better to go with the hello world. So we got a super chat here from Jyotishman. The question is, this class basic or advanced? So we are starting from basic and we'll move forward. Of course, we'll not be going in a depth of each topic because you can't do that in 6 hours. So we'll go for start to end, but quickly. And of course, if you want to master, I have the entire video. Okay, there's a 7 hours video on Java. You can watch that. Okay, so someone says they want to see my face as well. Okay, let's do that. So basically, we will be building our first. Okay, hold on. So yeah, we will be building our first code with the help of Hello World. Now, I know when you are yeah, so when you are learning other language, example, I'm not sure how if you know there's other language like Python or JavaScript. Doing hello world in this too, it's very simple. You just have to write one line of code, okay? So with this one line of code, you can actually get the output. Java is different. Java says, hey, you need to do some hard work. So the thing is, why do we need multiple lines of code? It's because when you write a code for a big project, number of lines are not important. And even if you write Java code and Python code for a big project, the number of lines will be same. It's only for hello world you have to write a lot of lines of code. So let's do that. So what I will do now is I will open my IntelliJ, and here let me also go for full screen now because I just want to focus on this code. So this is how IntelliJ IDEA look like. On the left hand side, you can see we have a project section. Center, you have a place where you can write a code, and somewhere you will get the output. Maybe at the bottom, you will get the output. You can shift to right hand side if you want. So let me create my first file. Okay. Uh, so again, someone who is here who is learning for Java for the first time, just go with the flow. Okay. Don't think if I'm able to remember all these things or not. That's a different thing. You need to practice it. Here, just be with me just to understand how Java works and what you can do. So what we will do here is we'll create a new file. Let's create a new Java file. Okay, let's click on that. So what I did is in the SRC, right click, say new Java class, and we'll say Java class here. But then you have to make sure that you provide a proper name to it. It's very important having a proper name to your Java file. So let's write a name here. Just a second. Let me just charge my mic. Okay. So let me name this file. So since this is our first file, so I will say this is first dot Java. In fact, you don't have to mention Java. So IntelliJ, you can simply say first, and you can see we got our first file. I'm not sure if the font is visible. Let me just increase the font size a bit. Mm, editor font size, should I make it 20? Is that enough? I think it's enough, right? You can see the font size. Or should I increase more? Okay, and people who are waiting for me to move towards black theme, we are not going to do that in this video because white theme is best when it comes to quality. Yeah, for coding, of course, black theme is good. So you can go to settings and you can change the font size. I have set it to 20. But why it's a lot? Okay, everywhere it's just 20. Okay, I guess this is okay, right? Okay, so this is how you create your first file. You need to have a class first. But what we will do is we'll remove this, okay? In fact, we will learn a lot in the first video, in the first code itself, okay? In the hello world, we'll understand a lot of concepts. So the first thing is, whenever you write a code, how will you mention? See, when you talk about a language, let's say Java, so what happens is, let me just go back to my whiteboard. And this is not specific to only one language. Okay, this is applicable in most of the languages. So basically, you have a computer, right? As a user will use a computer. So let's say this is a computer, and this will run your code. Okay, this is where you will run your code. But then, who will create this project? So basically, we are developers here. So let's say we have Alien who is going to build this project, and you have to write a software which will run on this machine, okay, on the client's machine. How will you do that? So how will you make sure that this project you build will work on the client machine? So basically, you need to make sure that, okay, yeah. So you have to make sure that you write a code which understands for this machine. The only language this machine understands is one and zero. Okay, zeros and ones basically, and that is your binary language. So you have to make sure that you create a software with the help of binary language. But would you do that? Will you make a project or will you write a code in a binary language? Of course not, right? So what you will do is you have to write a software in a language, let's say English, and then that's get converted into binary. Of course, you can't use plain English here. You have to use some syntactical English, English which follows some syntax, okay? Not some very hi-fi words, but simple syntactical English. And that's where we got a concept called a programming language. Now, using programming language, what we do is we write a syntactical English which gets converted into a binary language. And who will do that? So basically, we have two things. We have a concept called as interpreted. So we have some language which are interpreted, and then we have some language which is compiled. So basically, who converts your English syntax to binary is interpretation. It will execute everything step by step. But just to make it faster, we can first compile our file so that this interpretation will be faster. Okay. So by the time we discuss that, we have a super chat, and this super chat is from Atulya. And the question is, while installing IntelliJ, I'm getting an option of creating an association, and options are, okay, which one to choose? You don't have to choose anything. Just say Java. Oh, this is association files, right? In fact, you can skip all this stuff. Why these are required is, example, if you install IntelliJ and then you want to, uh, whenever you see a Java file in the system in your computer, it should directly open in IntelliJ. So you can choose all if you want, or you can skip all. Question from Starlord. So can you teach collections in this session? No, we'll do collection in the next session, which is in the evening. In the morning session, it's most about basics. Okay, so basically we are talking about how Java works, right? So we have interpreted and we have compiled, right? So what Java does is when you write a Java code, it gets compiled. So first it will get compiled. So this is your Java code, right? This is your source code. So this will get compiled, and so what you will get is a compiled version, and we call that compiled version as a bytecode. Okay. So this is your source code. The extension would be .java, which you're writing, and this will be your dot class. That's the extension you will see. And when you run this dot class, this will run on a computer in the format of binary. Cool. So first you will compile to get class file, and then you go for the interpretation. Cool. So now let's continue. Okay, so basically we got this right. Now we'll move towards the IntelliJ and let's write our code. So basically we want to print hello world. Now to print hello world, what we are going to do, we'll just say hello world. Now remember, we need to run this code on the client machine. So what's that? So we need to run this code on a client machine, right? So basically, we have to convert this code into a binary format. But the problem is, if you remember, we mentioned always use proper format. I mean, you need to write a language in a syntactical way. You have to follow some syntax. So the syntax is, if you want to print hello world as it is, you have to put that in double quotes. Remember this, always put your strings in double quotes. So when you write a text, it should be in double quotes. Next, I want to print this on a console. What is a console? It's an output window. So basically, you need to print this on a console. Now for that, you have to use some functions. Now, what are functions? Now, functions are basically a procedure using which you can do something. So if you want to achieve a task, you will be using functions. So here, we will be using a function called print. Okay. Now, when you write a function, always make sure that you put curly bracket or round brackets, basically parentheses. Now, if you are coming from the, let's say, JavaScript background or Python, normally we call them as functions, right? But in Java, we call them as methods. Okay, name is different, but the concept remains same. So in other languages, we call them functions. In Java, we call them methods. So print is a method here. Now this method belongs to an object. Now why we need object? Remember, Java is object oriented. So everything which you do belongs to an object. Example, if I want to call someone, so basically I have to use a call feature, right? So in this phone, so basically I have a call feature, a call method. So even to call, what I need, okay, you can't see my face, that's weird. Uh, so basically, if I have this phone and if I want to call someone, so basically I have to use that feature, right? A call method. But I can't use a call method without an object. So I need an object, and then I will say, hey, call someone. Same way, here, if you want to say print, you need to specify, you have to specify an object here. And the object is out. Now we'll discuss later what this object is and how this works. Okay, some people are saying there's a noise. Let me know if there's a noise in the video. I will try to rectify that and what that noise is. And see, if we are not able to complete entire Java in this particular day, we will do some more sessions. Don't worry. I will complete till Java 8 features. Okay, so basically we are saying out.print, and this out.print belongs to system. I know it's a bit tricky. The only problem is Java is difficult only for the first code. Okay, once we go ahead, Java is very easy. It's more logical, as if I can say that. Cool. So now, and there's one more thing. In Java, at the end, you have to always make sure that you put semicolon. Now, this statement is similar. This statement is similar to what? Python. In Python, we say print. In JavaScript, we say console.log. In C Sharp, we say console.writeLine. So different language has different statement, but ultimately they do the same thing. Okay. So now once you got this, uh, let's run this code. What do you think? Will it work? Now the only thing I don't like about an IDE is this thing. You get the error on the screen itself. Sometimes I just want to create a suspense and we can't do that on IDE, right? You can see actually see the error there. So what is the error? So error basically here is you can't simply write one line and it will work. As I mentioned before, Java is a structured language. Everything has to be in structure format. So if you want to do that, you need to follow a proper structure. And in Java, everything needs a starting point. So what we can do is we can say main. So whenever you talk about the starting point of execution, it is always a main method. So remember this. When you write a code, and if you want a starting point in Java, the starting point is always a main method. So you can see this is a main. You got one package. That's it's a method. And what we are doing here is we are defining the main method. Okay. But then this is not how main works in Java. Your main says, hey, I'm a method, right? I'm a function. I will do my work, but I will also return something. But I will say, hey, don't give me anything back. I will say void. So when you say void, it means it will not give you anything back. Next, I want to make sure that it will be accessible from anywhere. So I will make it public. So public simply means I can share this from anywhere. Okay, do you want me to increase the font size more? Oh, that's weird. I can properly say this. Maybe 24 should be good. See, if I go beyond 24, maybe the font will come out of the screen. Okay. Sometimes I do have to do weird jokes. I think this should be good. Okay, so now will this work? Now this will not work because we are missing something. So we are saying public void main. We have to also use one more keyword here, which is static. Again, we'll discuss about static later. As of now, this should work. Okay, now what is another issue? The thing is, main says, hey, I will do my work, but tell me if I need to do my work, maybe you have to pass something. Example, let's say, let me pick up someone from here. Let me pick up Srihari. I can see Srihari is in the chat. Srihari, if I ask you to give me a pen, okay, so let's say we are together and if I want to write something on the paper, I will ask you, hey, can you get me a pen? And you will say, hey, I don't have a pen here. So in this case, I will ask you to go out to the shop and get me a pen. But if I ask you to go to a shop to get me a pen, you will say, hey, I will give you a pen, but give me the money. So you will ask for the money so that you can give me a pen. So imagine Shri Hari is a method here. So if you want this to work, you have to give money, right? You have to give, maybe you have to pass some data here. Now, how will you pass data? So let me say I will pass the data which I will store in this variable called args. And this args will be a format of string. And maybe you will not just pass one string, you might pass multiple data. And when you want multiple data, you will use array. Again, we'll talk about array later. As of now, this is working. One more thing, when you write something like this, everything should be a part of a class. As I mentioned, Java is a structured language. Whatever you do should be a part of a class. I will say class first. At this point, you have to make sure that your file name is same as class name. Again, not compulsory, but let's go with that. And then we'll say this should work. So we got class first, and then we are printing hello world. And you can see on the screen we don't have any error. There's one more thing to remember. Whenever you mention a class, make sure that it is public. So you have to say public class first. Okay. Okay. Now will this code work? Now how do we run this code? If you remember, we have two steps here. So if I go back, so first you have to compile your file. Okay, so this you have to compile your file and then you have to run your file. Now how do you compile this? To compile a file, we have something called Java C. Now Java C stands for Java compiler. This is responsible to compile your file. And once you compile, you need a place where you can run your file. To run the file, we need JVM. Now, JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. The same thing we have for Python, right? In Python, we have PVM, which is Python Virtual Machine. For JavaScript, we have an engine. Remember? In JavaScript, we have an engine. Example for Chrome, we have V8 engine, which runs your JavaScript code. Same way, we need a JVM. Now, when you install JDK, you also get JVM by default. Okay, that's buy one and get one free. So what we will do is first we'll write a code, we'll compile the code, and then we'll run the code. Okay. So how do we run this? How do we compile this? We need to use Java C. We need to use JVM. But IntelliJ says, hey, you don't have to do that much of work. Just right click here and say run. Okay, I know. Simple steps, right? And if you do this on command line, it will take a lot of steps. But here, let's say run. And the moment you say run, you will see the output here. Where is the output? So it will take time for the first time. You can say we got hello world. So basically what we are doing, so basically we are trying to print a hello world here, which is system.out.println. And then, so this system.out.print, again, I know we can't learn everything in the first code itself. Okay, Sainath says we need to increase the speed. The thing is, if you spend more time in the basics, it will be easier for us to learn faster in future. Okay, and if you just get disconnected at the start, it will be difficult to understand further topics. So I love my pace. Yeah. So we are printing hello world. To do that, we have to say system.out.println. This is similar to print in Python. This is similar to console.log in JavaScript, and this is similar to console.writeline from C Sharp. I hope that's how you do it in C Sharp. Writeline, yeah. So these are the way you can do that. Again, we'll talk about why we have to use double dots here, what is system, what is out later. As of now, we are focusing on printing hello world. This is a syntax which you have to use every time. Okay, you have to say public static void main every time, and then you have to say string args. This thing will make much more sense later. Okay, so now we have run this code. We'll understand these things later more. Now we have already done with 50 minutes. It's time for a break, so we'll take a break for 10 minutes. So this is 9:53 in my machine. We'll come back in exactly next 10 minutes. So 9:53 in my machine, we'll come back at 10:03. Okay, till then we have a break. Enjoy your break. See you soon. Okay, so I hope you are back from the break. So we still have concurrent user of 1,000. That's great. Uh, cool. So once we are from the break, let's continue. I hope you can hear me properly. You can see that in the thing. Cool. Now once you know how Java works and we can see the output of first one, let's move to the next topic and let's talk about variables. Now to understand variables, let's go back to our IDE. Now first of all, why do we need variables? See, in the world of information, in the world of data, it's all about data, right? In fact, we know that Facebook earns all the money from us, right? So basically, you sell your data. If you think Facebook is free, WhatsApp is free, no. What you are giving them is your data, and this data has to be stored somewhere, right? Now, this data can be stored in the format of, I mean, it can be temporary storage, it can be permanent storage. So let's say you have a permanent storage. We can say it is persistent storage. So either you can have a persistent storage or you can have a temporary storage. Let's say temp. Now, whenever you store data in a file, let's say a file or a database or some other system, okay, so that's your persistent storage, right? But we also have temporary storage. Now, temporary storage simply means you are storing the data for a temporary amount of time, maybe just for execution purpose. So when you execute a code, you want to store some data for temporary purpose, right? And you can store this data, and you can store this data in something called a variable. Okay, now what is variable? So basically, variable is, okay, what is variable? So basically, I just want to make sure you can actually hear me properly. Oh, I'm not audible. That's weird. This is for everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, looks like you're hearing me. Cool. So we have a concept of variables right now. In variables, imagine you have a box and you are storing some value. Let's say 5. We have another box here in which you are storing, let's say 6. In another box you are storing a name. Let's say Naveen. In another box you have some storage. Let's say 5.5. So basically, what we are doing is you are creating a box and you are storing data. So if you want to store data, you will store that in a box. And we will call this box as variables, and every variable will have a name. So let's say name X or name, or let's say marks, and let's say temperature. So basically every variable is a box and you can have a name for it. So example, we have X name, we have marks, we have temporary, sorry, not temporary, temperature. So let's use them here. And by the way, we are going live on multiple platforms. I'm not seeing much comments from LinkedIn. Is the LinkedIn user not active, or my streaming software is not showing LinkedIn comments? Uh, cool. So once we know this thing, let's go back to our IDE and let's create a variable here. So what I will do, let me just remove this statement, or let me just increase space here. So what I will do is I want to store some data. Now what data I'm talking about? Let's say I want to store my store a number, let's say 5. Now to store this data, first we need a variable name. As of now, we are going for a variable name which is X. Not a good name to have a variable name, but we can go with this. Variable name should have a proper thing, right? Let's say name or number. So maybe we can also say num, which makes much more sense, right? Let's have a variable name as num, and this num is equal to 6. So what we are doing here is we are storing this value which is 6 inside a num variable. Okay, but the thing is, in Java, whenever you in Java, whenever you create a variable, You need to specify a type of it. Now, Java is a strictly typed language. Now, what does strictly typed language means? Whenever you create a variable, it should have a type. Example, it can be a number, it can be a string, it can be an image, it can be any type of data you're working with. Always make sure that you you mention a type to it. So here, what type of data you can see? You can see a number, right? 6. Now this 6 can be, I mean, whenever it's a number, it can be a different type. Example, if I go back to my whiteboard, so this number can be of type integer. This number can be of type float. This number can be of type double. This number can be of type short. This number can be of type byte. I know that different types of data type we have here. In fact, we also have long as data type. Now, what's a difference between all this? See, we all know the number is number. Doesn't matter what type of number you're working with. Number is number, right? So here, when you say integer, it ranges from negative to positive range. The float point number is also same. The difference is in floating point you can actually find decimals. Example, let's say if you want to store 5.6, or maybe you want to store 4.1, or maybe you want to store 65.6. So all this number are floating point number. Next we have double. Now the difference between float and double. So these are almost same. The only difference is float has a limited range and double has a better range. Because see, whenever you store data in your system, it will take some space. For example, if you take a photo goes for let's say 4 MB or 8 MB. So in this case, what we will do here is we'll say float is of 4 bytes and double is 8 bytes. So it gives you more space, right? So you can store more number, the double one. The short, so int here takes 4 bytes. Short takes 2 bytes. Byte take 1 byte as the name suggests, and long also takes 8 bytes. So now which is better? Everything is better based on their requirement. Example, if you want to go for uh, a normal number which we use in real world, integer always works. If you want to go for float number, double is the best one because it provides you better precision, as someone mentioned in the chat window. And I'm looking at the chat window as well, right? If you want to share something interesting, let me know. I'm looking at the chat as well. Okay, but if you want to store a limited number, you can go for short. If you want to store a very small number, let's say 50, 100, something like that, you can go with 1 byte, which is byte type. And if you want to go for a longer number in the integer range, you can go for long. But integer always works. So if you want to store a number, integer always works. Right? So let's go back. And that's why, when you write a code, maximum time you will say integer. So I will say int. So you have to mention int num is equal to 6. Ganeshan says he can't see our comments. I can see your comments. Okay, it's just that I have multiple windows to look at. Difficult to see, difficult to remember all the windows. Okay, there's a lag. Is it? Is it for everyone? Let me know. Because my streaming says excellent connections. I'm not sure. Okay, cool. So we have int num is equal to 6. So that's how you create a variable. So variable name is num, the type is int, and the value is 6. And now once we got it, it's time to let's print it as it is. How do you print a variable? It's very simple. You go back here and you say num, and using this you can actually print data in the variable. So let's run this code, and you can see we will get 6 here. Okay, why is taking time? Maybe because everything is happening on the same machine. Oh, what's that? Let me check my task manager. Oh, the task manager is eating 100% of the battery, 100% of CPU. That is weird. Actually, the problem is this streaming software takes a lot of power. Okay, where was I? I was talking about the output, right? Yeah. So you can say we got the output as 6. So this is working. But what if you want to perform some operation? Can we do that? Example, I want to say num is equal to 9. So initially the value of num was 6. Now I'm making it 9. Will this work? Of course, this should work, right? Why you cannot change the value of a variable? See, if you look at the name itself says it's a variable, right? When you say variable, it means you can change the value. Uh, so that's why you can change the value here. So if you print now, what do you think? What will be the output? Let's run this code and let's see what happens. If you say run here, it will run this code and you can see it will print. It should print 9. And that's right, we got 9. So that's how you can change the value of a variable. In fact, not just this, not just assigning a static value, you can perform an operation. You can say num is equal to num itself. So you're adding the number itself by, let's say, 2. You can do that. Okay. Uh, okay. Now, once we talk about variables, let's talk about operators. Now, since we talk about this plus operator, we have some other operators as well. Okay. Just a second. Yeah. So we can use some other operators as well. We can use subtraction operator. So you can say num is equal to num minus 2. So what it will do is whatever value you have here, it will subtract that by 2. Let's try this. And you can see we got 4. So 6 minus 2 is 4, of course, right? That's right. What else we can do here? We can separate this number by 2. We can also multiply this number by 2. So you can perform all this operation. So you can, if you want to say multiply, you just have to use double. You have to say multiplication. You can also perform division if you want. Any guess how we can do division here? And so for division, we have to use a slash. So when you say slash, it is a division. What if you want to find a remainder? Okay, first of all, let me run this code. Let's see to this work. Okay. Okay, so you can see we got division. It's working. You can also find a percentage. Now, using percentage, it will give you a reminder. Sorry, not reminder, remainder. That's what happens. So you will get a remainder here. Let's run this code, and you can see it will give you 0. Now, how remainder works? Example, if you say 6 divided by 2, the quotient will be 3, and the remainder will be 0. Example, if I say 4, 6 divided by 4 will give you 1 as a quotient and 2 as a remainder. Let's run this code. And yes, we'll also have a doubt solving session. So before a break, 5 minutes, we can have a doubt solving session. So at 10:45, we'll have a doubt solving session. Then 10:50, we'll have a break. Cool. So that's how it works, right? So we can see we have different operators here. What are the operators we have? So we'll see some more operators once we go ahead and talk about it. Okay. Can we have some more variables? Example, let's say I want to add 2 numbers, but then I want to have more variables. I have num1, and let me also go with num2. There's a num2 is 7. So we got these 2 variables, and here I want to have another variable, let's say result. So you can see in total we got 3 variables. And that's how you do it. Every time you want to use a variable, create a new variable. Okay. Okay, Aditya says, are you going to conclude all the topics today? That's the plan. I just want to give you the overview of the entire language. Okay, so here you can say num1 plus num2, right? Okay. And here instead of printing result, we'll print, so instead of printing num, we can print result. And let's run this code and it should print, the actual system is taking a lot of pressure. So if I show you task manager, it's eating the entire CPU. Just look at the CPU consumption. The software for streaming, it takes 49%. Okay, why the camera is on? Okay, I'm not using camera, right? Let me disable the camera so that it will take less. So if I stop the camera, it should give better performance, I guess. Cool. No camera, no issue. Cool. So we are printing result here. We got 13 here. But what if you want to print something like the addition of 6 and 7 is 13? In that case, I'll get a better computer. So I'm using a gaming machine here. The streaming software is actually very bulky. Trust me on that. It's very bulky. Okay. Maybe a super chat will be helpful. I can buy a new machine. Good. So what I will do is I just want to say the addition of 6 and 7 is 13. So in that case, what we can do is we can say, so what the string should be in the double quotes, right? So what we will do here is we'll say, what's wrong? The addition of 6 and 7 is 13, right? But the problem is, even if you change the value in future, it will still print 6 and 7. We don't want to do that. So what we will do here is, instead of using this 6, we'll use num1, and here we'll use num2, and here we'll use result. Yes, this is a ROG machine, not Strix. For programming, I always prefer a gaming machine. Gaming machine always works. Okay, cool. So will this work? Of course not, right? It will print the string as it is. We don't want that, right? So it will print num1 and num2 in the string as it is. We don't want that. What we want is we want to print the value, right? So here, what we have to do is we have to write num1 and num2 outside this open bracket. I mean the double quotes. So let's end this double quotes here. And so the addition of, this is a string, right? We'll put that in double quotes. Variable should be outside double quotes. So what we'll do is, someone came at the door, but I have someone to open the door. Don't worry. So we'll say num1, and then we'll open the curly bracket. So what we have to do is we have to use a concept called string concatenation. So what we are doing here is we are concatenating a string and a variable. So this is concatenation. You can see merging of two things. And then here we'll say plus. Someone says the ROG is bad. Unfortunately, I have two ROG machines. One is i5, one is i7. I recently bought one more. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to put all the variables. You have to put all the variable outside this double quotes. Now look at this string here. So what we are saying is we are saying the addition of, and then we are saying num1 and num2 is result. So what it will do, it will print the addition of, it will fetch the value of num1, which is 6. it will print and then it will take num2 which is 7, and then it will print is, it will take result which is the addition of the both. Let's run this code and let's see what happens. And you can see we got the output. The output is the addition of 6 and 7 is 13. Cool. Okay, what next now? So here what we can do more is, so we have taken two variables, right? We can also take a string. Let's say who is doing this addition. So I can create a string, my name. I want to insert my name there. So we can save that in a variable called user, and you can have a name which is, you have to make sure that your name is in a string format. Now, why I have used a string, a double quotes here, is because my name is in string format. Okay, someone says I have to kill the camera app, right? The only thing is I'm worried if this will crash the entire streaming software, because the streaming software uses camera, and I don't want to risk it at this point. Maybe after this break I will try it out during the big time. Okay, so we got a variable user, and then we are storing Naveen there, right? So if you want to get a variable, you have to specify type of it, right? And that type is string. So we got string user is equal to Naveen. Right? That's how we get a variable. And maybe we can write the name here. So we can say, I can write my name at the start. So I will say user and plus. Maybe also I will also give a colon here. So it will print my name first, and then it will give a colon, and then it will print the entire string. Let's try. And you can see we got the output. So that's how we can create, we can use a variable like num1, num2, string. We can also work with other variables as well. Example, what I will do is I will just remove this part. And look at the thing which I'm doing. Every time you open a curly brackets, give a proper type, give a proper indentation. You can see that I've given a space here, which makes your code look beautiful, right? Okay. Once you do that, once you have your thing, let me also get other variables here. Let's say we can also go for float. Now float, let's say f variable and then say 5.5, and then we can have double variable, which is d is equal to let's say 6.5. Now, what's the difference? So, example, if you say 5.5 and 6.5, it by default it will take what? So we can say float 5.5, double 6.5, but you can see on float we are getting an error. By default, the floating point values are always double. The moment you say point, it is always double. If you want to mention, hey, use float, in that case, you have to mention f at the end. It's not the variable name, it's float, it represents float, right? Then we got double, which is 6.5. You got float, which is 5.5f. That's the difference between float and double. That's how you can differentiate between these two. I really think I should stop the camera app. Okay, so we got float. Then we got long. We can also use long here. It is same as int. The only thing is long provides you a longer number support. So I can give any number here, let's say 88, and that works. Then we can go for short. Short is a type. You can save, let's say, 52. That works. In fact, you can go for any number. But if you go beyond a number, that range, it will give you error. So short has a range. I guess it is 3 to 6, 5, 7. Is that the range? If I go for 8, there's a range to it. If you remember in C as well, we have a range, right? 6 to 5, 6. There's some, I forgot the range, but there's a range. If you go beyond that, it will give you an example. If I say 40,000, it will give you error, right? If anyone knows the range, mention that in your chat window. So let's say 52 or 55. That's right. So when you say F here at the end, that is explicit conversion or explicit typecasting. Perfect. Cool. Now once we got this, let's go with some other type. We also have byte. We can also do byte, and let's say number 8 in byte. Cool. Yeah, 768. That's right. I was looking for that number. It is 768 32767. That's the last number you can go with. The moment you say 768, it will give you error. So short range is this. 767 is the last number. Perfect. This is the same range for integer in C language. Cool. Okay. So that's how you can use different type of data. In fact, you can print this. Everything will work. Don't worry. And anything left in the data type? No. Okay, there's a super chat, and the question is MacBook Air M1 or ROG Zephyrus. At this point, I will be buying. Or if you give me an option, I will go for M1 machine. I love it. The performance it provides. I do have a Mac here, but that's Intel based. I would love to get M1. Go with that. Okay, let me remove this entire stuff. And let's talk about, so we have talked about operators. Let's try to do some conditions. Okay, just a second. I'm looking at the chat window. Okay, let's move towards something called the conditional statements. See, again, everyone, I will explain this public static void main again later once we start with the concept of oops. But as of now, we want to focus more on all the basics of programming. And once we do that, we'll move towards it. So basically, we are going to talk about now, which is conditional statements, if else. Okay. First of all, why do we need something called if and else? So if you look at the programming world, we are saying AI will take over. Now, at the core, what is AI? AI is all about if and else. Example, let's say you got up this morning and you have attended this session. You had an option. You could have gone to sleep again, but you choose to watch this live streaming. You choose to improve your knowledge. You choose to revise your concepts. So in your brain, you did this. Is this session important? Yes. Will it be helpful for the future? Yes. If you said no, you are not watching this anymore, right? If you're watching this, that means you are excited to improve your knowledge and you feel this session is important. So in your brain as well, continuously you're doing if-else conditions, right? So if we are trying that, if you're saying that the the computers are mimicking humans, it's all because of if and else. It's based on the conditions. So what type of condition I will go for? Let's have a variable which is num here, and the value of num is, let's say, 5. Now, based on 5, the value of 5, I want to print. Example, let's say you scored 70 marks. And if I want to check if you are a bright student or not, this is the worst thing which happens to the Indian education system. I guess most of the education system, they work more on the marks. It's a worst way of judging a student, but let's do that. Let's do the irony here. So we'll see if we get, because that's what we do in our 10th standard, right? Once you complete your 10th standard, how do you judge which stream should you take? Should you go for science or arts or commerce? Is based on how much marks you scored, right? So if you scored above 80, you can go for science. I'm not sure about the current situation, but in 2007 or 2006, that was the scenario. If you scored 80%, you can try for science. If you go below that, don't even try for science. So I want to suggest someone. If someone is asking, should I go for science or commerce after 10th? I will go for marks. It's a bad way of doing it. Never judge based on marks. But let's do that. Okay, so we'll check. How do you check? So I want to print signs or commas based on your marks. Okay, so I will say if. That's how you check. Okay, or maybe I will just first print it. Okay, how do you print system.out.print with a shortcut? So in IntelliJ, you simply say s out and tab. So when you say s out and tab, you can say you'll get system.out.println. Okay, what's the difference between print and println is when you say print, it will print on the same line. Okay, what's the issue? Yeah, so system.out.println will print on it will print and it will go on new line. So here I will print signs and I will print commas. Okay, so based on marks, I want to suggest here, which should never be done, but let's do that. So how do we check this? How do we bifurcate? So even if you so let's say if we will check for the condition. If the condition is true, then we'll print the first statement. Then we'll print the first statement. If the condition is false, in that case we'll say else. So that's how it works. We have if and else. Okay, so we got a super chat. Base model would be enough? No. No. Yeah, so based on, so if this is num is true, if the value of num is more than 80, then it should be true, right? How do you check for the condition? In that case, you will be using num is greater than 80. That's how you check for the value. So let's say I scored 85. And then if I'm checking, if the value of num is greater than 80, in that case, print signs. If the value of num is not greater than 80, if this is false, it will print commas. That's how if and else works. Yeah, that's right. Someone says, Raghav says decision making. That's how you do it, decision making. Perfect. Right. So if the value of num is greater than 80, you will print signs, it will print commas. Let's try if this works. And you can see we got the output which is signs. So if you scored more than 80, you can go for signs. And if you scored, let's say, you know how much I scored in my 10th standard? Any guess? Use your chat window. And by the time you answer that, let me answer it here. So I scored 59 marks, 59% in my 10th standard. And you know what subject I took? Science. I know that's weird, but I've taken science after 10th standard. So if we run this code, and you can see we got the output, which is we're taking some time, and you can see we got commas, right? But then I took science because I don't believe in marks. Cool. Cool. Uh, okay. So what else? What else? What if you want to go for arts as well? So we have this tendency. If you score below 60, you should go for arts. See, I believe you should choose your stream based on your interest, right? So if you love science, go for science. If you love commerce, go for commerce. If you love arts, go for arts. Don't choose a stream based on the marks, right? And even if you score 99%, and if you don't like science, you should avoid it. Right? Okay, cool. So let's try that. Let's say if you scored below 60%, I want to print arts, not even commerce. In that case, I have to specify one more condition. So in this case, let's compare that. If you scored, so we'll do else if. If this is false, we'll check for one more condition, and that's why we say else if, again if, and we'll check if this is beyond 60%. If this is more than 60%, we'll print commas, and then we'll print else, we'll print arts, right? But what if you scored below 35? That's a passing percentage, right? Else be a motivational speaker. That's what is happening on the YouTube nowadays. People from any field are becoming motivational speakers, or maybe you can be a real. I heard this word new first time by Yashraj Mukherjee, if I'm pronouncing the right name. You can be a real in. Right? But again, if you, I believe if you, even if you score 99%, if you want to be this, you can do that. Right. So let's do that. So the value here is 59. So it should print. It should print what? It should print commerce. No, it should print arts. And that's right. We got arts. And then if you got, let's say, 32%. Okay, and you can see we got be a motivational speaker. So that's how we can use if-else conditions. Okay, great. So this is working, right? This thing is working. What else we can do here? We can actually, so that's how we do it, right? So we got if-else and we got this. Now what we will also do is, let's also add one more factor here, and we'll say this factor is interest. What is your interest? So if your interest is science, so let's do this combination now. Okay. So let's do a combination. If you get, if your interest is science, then I should print science. Okay. I want to check both the conditions. It should be either 80% and, I mean, it should be both, not either or. It should be both. You both need to be you need to get 80% as well as you need to be interested in science. How do you combine two conditions? Anyone? How do you combine two conditions? Just to keep it more simple, we have one more. Let's go for character and let's say science. We'll represent S as science. Now, why I'm going for characters? Because it is easy to compare. String behave differently when you compare it. So let's go with a character. So we have one more type, which is character type. So if we want to store only one character, this is the best one. Okay. Now in this case, if you want to compare both the conditions, so we have two conditions, right? One is this. The second condition is interest should be equal to science. Now, why I'm using double equal to here? Why not single equal to? Because single equal to is for the assignment operator. So this is an assignment operator. Equal to means assignment. And this one, which is double equal to, is comparison. So we can say this is equality operator. So we are comparing it, right? So this has to be with science. But then when you have two conditions, we have to merge them, right? Now, how do you merge them? To understand that, let's go back to our whiteboard. And here, let's see how do you merge two things. Okay, everyone, if you have not hit that like button yet, hit that like button because that's the motivation for me. Hit that like button and do subscribe if you have not done till now. Okay, so how this logical operator works? So basically, we have a concept of logical operators. Now we have and. So when you want to compare two conditions, we can use and, we can use or, and we can use not. Now when to use what? See, if you have two conditions and if both has to be true, if both has to be true for true, then you should go for and operator. But if you want only one to be true, And if you want it to be true, you can go for or. Now what I'm saying is the first condition is true, the second condition is true, the output you want it to be true, it should be and. But any of the condition is true or false, in that case you will get true with the help of or operator. So basically we have a table actually here. Okay, so you can see my diagram, my drawing skills, it's amazing. Right. Okay, so let's say we have first condition, second condition, and then we have, so if this is true, this is true, this is true and false condition, false and true and false and false. Okay, my false and my true look same. That's the talent. If both are true, if you are using an and operation here, so this will be true, this will be false, this will be false, this will be false. Only when it is true, it will be true. Then we can have one more table, and this one will be for, the problem is I write in a sliding format, in a cross angle, and my touch pad is it's straight, and that's the problem. So we got 1, 2. If this is true, this is true, this is true, this is false, this is false, this is true, this is false, this is false. If you use a or operator here, which is or, this will give you true, this will give you true, this will give you true, this will give you false. So you can say in this condition, if both are true, then you will get true in the AND operation. In the OR operation, if any of them is true, you will get true. Okay, then we also have not. Now, not simply means if you give true, it will give you false. Okay, so here let's try that. So here we'll use here we'll use and. Now we don't use and as a keyword, we have to use double ampersand. So when you say double ampersand, it means an and operator. When we use double pipe, it's an or operator. We want the marks to be 80 and interest should be science, then only you should take science. So let's try now. Let's run this code. And you can see we got the output, which is, oh, it still says motivational. Oh, because marks is less. Let's say 82 percentage. Yeah, in electronics, these are logic gates. That's right. And you can see we got science. Now with this, let's take a doubt solving session for a few minutes. And now for doubt solving, let me invite everyone to the streaming. You can join the streaming with the live stream, and let me just take some questions in. So speed up. Yes, yeah, we'll speed up. Don't worry. We have the advanced session in the evening, right? So make sure that you watch this video even after completing this, so that in the evening we can take some questions. Okay, we got this very funny thing. You can't hit like button because motivational. You can't motivation because the score is more than 35. Oh, okay. My bad. Okay, so we have Shaurya. Shaurya, your question, but I can't hear your question.
Yes,
Okay.
so actually my question was that when I'm trying to run my code in the command prompt, it is
Yeah.
telling me that couldn't load class, and it's giving me some kind of error. Could you please help me?
But how will I see your code? So what I will do is, let me just share the entire code with you. How do I share this code? Is I will maybe you have written some wrong spelling or something. So there's a website called as codeshare.io. What I will do is I will just share the code with you now. In the chat window, I'm sharing the code, a link using which you can get the code which I've written. So type the exact code.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, sir.
It should work. I still can't hear you if you're saying something.
Yes, sir, I was saying thank you.
So just hold on. I can't hear you. Yeah, can you repeat that?
Yes, sir, I'm saying thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay. Welcome, Shaurya. Try that example. Okay, great. Can I take some more questions? Yes, I should. We have 1 minute. He's saying of the main method. I think maybe you can just get this code. So you can share the code. Uh, your wrong spelling, please correct it. Cool. Every day is a live session. We can try for it. So next Sunday I'm planning to go for JavaScript, and after that Python. That's a plan, but let's see. If everything goes well, we'll do it. Now with that, it's a break time. See you after the break, everyone. So this is 10:50. Let's connect at 11. Okay, so let's get started. I guess. Okay, I don't know what is. It's getting played everywhere. Cool. So let's continue with the session. So till this point, we have talked about what? Let me just go back to my IDE. Yes, you can't see the IDE font size because I've minimized it. So we'll do that. Don't worry. And by the time we do that, let me know how the introduction screen was looking. So we just built this today itself. Yesterday night, uh, the team has worked it. Intro for the live sessions only. Let's see. So let's continue with this. Let's continue with this session. So we have talked about if else, right? Let's go beyond that. So we have talked about and operator. We have talked about or operator. Let's use that here. In fact, the next example, what we're going to do is we'll skip this now. We'll go for the next example where we'll try to compare three values. Okay, it will make much more sense there. And you will help me with that in the comment section. Okay, so in the chat window, write a code to find how do you find a greatest of the values. Okay, just a second. While you're doing live, there are so many things you have to be good with. Maybe someday I will show this setup, how it looks like when I'm doing a live session. Uh, but yeah, so let me just remove this thing. Cool. So let's continue, and now let's do comparison of three values. So how do we do that? So let's say if I give you three values here. Okay, so let's say we have three variables. One is A, and the value of A is B, and second is B. The value of B is, let's say, 5 or say 6, and the value of C is, let's say, 4. Now, how do you know which is the greatest value here? Okay, Shaurya says, how do we solve that, Shaurya? So what you can do, Shaurya, is you can share your code somewhere. So use the same website, type your code, and do share with us so that I can help you with the bugs. Okay, so basically we have to compare A with both the values, right? So you have to compare A with B and C. Then you have to compare B with A and C. And then you have to compare C with A and B. And that's how you know, right? So if A is greater than B and C, then we know A is greatest. If we know B is greater than A and C, then we know B is greatest. So how do we solve that? So what we can do is we can check for the if condition. In if we say if A is greater than B, and now we have to use and because we are comparing two things. We are having two conditions and both has to be true. So then we'll say A is greater than C also. So we have to check for both, right? And then we'll print A is greatest. But what if A is not the greatest one? So in that case, what we can do is we can check if B is greater than okay. If B is greater than A and B is okay, this is and okay, not or. B is greater than C as well. Then we'll print B is greatest. Else we'll have to compare C with everything else. Okay, let's try that in the code itself. Let's see if this works. So let me just remove the entire stuff from here. And let's say A is equal to 5. And we can declare multiple variables here as well. Okay, we can give a comma. We can define this. So we can check if A is greater than B and A is greater than C, we'll print A is greatest. Else if we'll check if A or not A, we have to compare B with A and C. But don't you think once you know at this point, so at this point, if this is not true, if this is false, that means A is not the greatest one. Then why do you even compare again? Don't you think? I mean, when you know that A is not greatest, then why do you even compare A with C and B? In that case, we can do it for B and C only, because now we know A is not the greatest one. So we'll say B is greatest. And else we'll say what? C is greatest. That's it. So what we are doing is we are saying we are comparing, and then we are comparing with the help of an AND operator here. Let's run this code. And it's taking some time. And you can see we got B is greatest because that's a scene. This video will be available afterwards as well. So that's my suggestion. Once this session gets over, at 4 o'clock, we have another session, which is the advanced part of this one. So you can re-watch the video and you can just re-practice stuff so that it will be easier for you to understand the next session. Don't worry, I will start the oops soon. Don't worry. Just go with the flow. Okay, so we have talked about this stuff, right? So this is if else. Now let's move towards, of course, we can talk about switch and we can talk about ternary. Example, let's talk about ternary here. I want to find if a given number is even or odd. Okay, how do you find a given number is even or odd? So in this case, I can check, I can say if num is equal to 5. Okay, how do you find even or odd? It's very simple. You can check if the num mod 2 is equal to 0, right? So mod 2 will give you remainder. So if the remainder is 0, that means it's an even number. So we'll print even. Else, we'll print odd. Okay. Cool. So we got even and we got odd, right? But will this work? Let's try. And you can see we got odd here because 5 is an odd number. You can do this with if else, or in fact, before that, I will do one more thing. So I will say string, and string I will say result is equal to, I will say empty string. As of now, the string is empty. And here, what I will do is, instead of printing the value, I will assign the value to result. I will say result is even, and here result is odd. Cool. And then we'll print result. So let's run this code. And you can see we got odd. Same thing is just that before printing it, I'm storing that in a variable. Okay, so instead of doing this, we can do one more thing. This is a lengthy code, right? So we have an option of ternary operator, which works in this way: question mark and a colon. So what we can do is we can say result is equal to, see, ultimately the value of result would be even or odd, right? So we can simply check the condition here. So we can say number 2 is equal to 0. If this is true, then assign even. If this is false, assign odd. The same thing which we did in the if else. So this is your even odd. I mean, this is your ternary operator and this is your if else. Let's try if this works. And this is working. Awesome, right? So I can see a lot of people are watching this. Hit that like button if you just joined this session and if you enjoy the live sessions. Yes, so if you just joined, hit that like button. That's how you can motivate me. Cool. That's how we can use ternary operator. We can also you go for switch, but let's do switch later. You can watch the switch video later because we want to look at other aspects as well. Okay, cool. Now what I will do here is let's talk about loops. Let me get the banner of loops. Okay, so what is a loop? So if you want to do something repeatedly, example in your code, if you have some statement which you want to execute multiple times, the best way to do that is with the help of loops. So here, let's use a loop here. Now, which is your favorite loop? Basically, we have 3 different type of loops here. Uh, so we have a while loop, we have a do while loop, and then we have a for loop. Okay. In fact, most of the languages have the same thing, right? If you learn Python or JavaScript, in Java also we have the same thing, right? So let's do that. So let's say I have a statement here where I'm printing hi. I want to print this hi 5 times. How do you print hi 5 times? And let me also know in the chat window, everyone, if this type of sessions are actually effective. Because I can see a lot of people are watching this, but is it effective? Watching a video or watching live, which is more effective? Because we have the same thing in the video as well, in 7 hours video, which has more content than this live session. Okay, so what I will do now is let me print hi one. So I want to print hi 5 times, right? So what I can do is, so there was a call which got me distracted here. So what is not a data type? No, var is something which we use. So there's a question: is var is not a data type? No, var is something which we use in JavaScript to declare a variable. Okay, so what I will do here is I will use a loop. So I want to execute hi 5 times, right? We have multiple options. We can simply copy paste this, paste, 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 and paste, and then we can run this code. It will print hi 5 times. That's one thing that's one thing you can do. Okay. Otherwise, okay, you can't see the output. What I will do is I will just take this on the right hand side. I guess this is better, right? You can actually see the entire output here. Right. And let me just reduce this one. Cool. So basically, just a second, everyone. I just have to. Okay. So yeah, so we are printing hi, right? So what we'll do is we'll print a for loop. We'll use a loop here. So what we'll do is we'll say, hey, I don't want to write multiple statements, right? See, repeated things are actually a crime. So when you do something, when you write the same statement multiple times, it's actually a crime, and we are not criminals, right? So let's not repeat this statement multiple times. So what we'll do, we'll write one statement and we'll repeat this multiple times. Okay, so how do we do that? So we'll write that block, we'll write this thing in a block, and we'll say while. So we'll start with while loop. Okay, but how do we know? I mean, we are saying, hey, keep doing this. But while says, I will do it till the condition is met. Okay. And someone says close left side. That makes much more sense, right? Uh, yeah. Uh, just a second. Just very important. Actually, there's a society meeting going on. So sorry for that. Okay, so while says when you say you are a loop, so when we run this loop, it will check for the condition. So if the condition is true, it will simply print it. Okay, let's try this. Let me just run this code and it will hang my machine for sure. And you can see we are getting high multiple times. You know why we're getting high this multiple times is because we are saying true, and while says, okay, my job is to just repeat everything till the condition is true. Condition is true, it will simply continue. We say, hey, stop it, stop it, stop it. Don't go beyond that number. I just want to do it 5 times. So we need a counter, right? So we'll say hi, 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 hi. So we are counting. How do we count? So the way you can count here is we need a variable. So we need a variable. So let's take a variable which is I. The value of I would be 1. And then here we have to check for the condition. The I value should not go beyond 5. Okay, the value of I should not go beyond 5. And every time we do that, you have to also increment the value of I. Now, to increment, we have to say I equal to I plus 1. So basically, we have to say I equal to I plus 1. But then we will be saying I plus plus. Okay, so I plus plus is a shortcut to I equal to I plus 1. That's it. So basically, we have to do 3 things. The first, we have to assign the value. Then we have to check for the condition. And then we have to go for increment and decrement. So let's run this code. Okay, I'll be right back. There's someone at the door. Okay, I'm back. You know what is happening in my society? There's no water from last 2 days. There's no there was a power, there's a problem of the internet as well. So everything is going wrong in my society, and that's why they have a very big meeting today. Let's see how things goes. Uh, okay, so we got the output, right? We got high 5 times. Let me also print the value of I when I do this. Now what is happening is the value of I here is 1. Then we are saying while the condition is I less than 5, just continue. So it will print this 1 by 1, right? And it will increment the value. So what I will do is let me just share this code with you so that you can try it on your machine. Okay, someone is editing this and they have entered some new text. Okay, you're editing the same screen. I didn't knew that you can actually edit this file. I should make it. Okay, don't edit the same file with anyone if you're doing that. So you tried taking the input from the user. I just need to replace this. So that's the new output, that's the new code. Just use that. Okay. Okay, so but basically what we're doing is we are printing high 5 times, right? So what we're doing is we are saying I equal to 1, and then we are saying I less than equal to 5, and then we are printing the value. So the initial value of I would be 1. It will check if 1 is less than 5, yes, it will print high. It will print the value of I. Okay, we are not printing it, we're not running it. Let's run this. Uh, okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, right? So initially the value of what it will print 1. It will increment the value of I. It will then check if the value of I becomes 2 here, right? And then it will check 2 is less than 5. Yes, it will continue. It will print high 2, and then it will continue with the value of 3, then 4, then 5. And ultimately, when the condition is not satisfied, it will go out of the loop. And I have this question for everyone. What if I print the value of I now? So take your time, take 5 seconds, and write the output in the chat window. And by the time you write the output, we have a question from Aman. DSA or technology, Spring React, please suggest. I would say if you are looking for the enterprise market, go for technologies. But it's always better to first learn data structures. You don't have an option here. First learn the data structures basics, and then move towards the Spring framework. So this for everyone, what it will print. Okay, everyone says 6. Let's try. Let's run this code. And you can see we got 6. Now, why 6? Okay, someone even said 5 and someone said 1. See, 1 makes sense, right? Because it is 1 here, so it should be 1. But the thing is, initially it was 1. You are changing the value here, right? It will get updated. And ultimately, the value would be ultimately the value would be 6. Now, why 6 is because, see, after the iteration, the value of I is 5, right? At this point, the last iteration, the value of I is 5. Here, we are changing the value of I to 6. And then we are checking, is 6 less than 5? No. And that's why it's jumping out of the loop. And that's why we got the value of I as 6. Well, the same thing can be done with the help of do while loop. But before going for do while loop, I want to do one thing. Let's say the value of I was 7 initially. What do you think? Will it print high? Come on, answer that in the chat window. If I write 7 here, will it print high? Okay, and the answer is no. If I run this code, and you can see we got 7 itself. We are not printing high because the value of I is 7. It is checking for the condition. Is 7 less than 5? No. It will jump out of the loop. Okay, so it will not work. But then instead of using while loop, we can also use do while loop. In do while loop, what you do is you check for the condition. In do while loop, you check for the condition later. What's that? So in do while loop, you check for the condition later. Let's try now. Okay, so you can see what is happening now. The thing which is happening here is okay, I forgot to mention do here. Forgot to mention do. So this is do while loop. So we say do, then we give a block, and then we say while. So do while and while they're almost same. The only difference is in do while, even if your condition is false, it will print once. You know why? It's because we are checking for the condition later. So first you got the initial value, then you got this, then you're printing the value, and then you're incrementing it, and then you are checking for the condition. Condition is false, but at least you are printing once. Okay, so let me share the code. Someone is asking for the code. You will find this code here on this link. Let me share the link in the StreamYard, in the chat window. In the chat window, you can see I have shared a link using which you can get this code. Cool, right? This is awesome. So that's how your do while loop works. Now, instead of using do while loop, we can also use a for loop here. Now, how for loop looks like. Now, first of all, why do we need for loop? See, every loop needs three things, right? We need initial value, we need a condition, and we need increment decrement. So can we do the same thing, entire thing in one line? And yes, we can. So what I will do is I will say for, we have three things, right? So we'll say int I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, and I plus plus. So we are writing everything in one line. See, ultimately we have three different statements, but we are writing everything in one line. And let me print here, hi, and I. Let's run this code, and of course you will get the same output. Okay, what's the question? Is do optional or is not optional? If you don't write do, it will treat that block as it is. It will treat as a block, not as a do while loop. Okay, question from Divya, and the question, this is a repeated question, that's why I'm answering. I just want to know why where works run in Java. Why doesn't work in Java? If I try. You can see where does not work in Java. It works on JavaScript. Okay. Now when to use where and when to use do while and when to use while. Okay, someone is editing the code. See, the problem is I can't help it. There is an option of not changing the code. Okay, please don't change the code which I'm sharing with you. Do I have the option of making it read only? We don't have that, so I don't have a control on it now. Yeah, I don't have a control on this. Sorry. Next time I will get a good software using which I can share the code. Okay, stop typing here, everyone. Stop typing here. Okay, cool. Okay, Anurag says use paste bin. Okay, let's try that later. Cool. So now once we have this, we have for loop, right? So when to use what? Now, when you know the iterations, example, if you know you want to go from 1 to 10, you want to go from 1 to 100, you can use a for loop. But then what if you don't know till what point you want to go for? Example, what I will do now is I have a different situation here. Let's say I have a number and the value of the number is, let's say, this number. And I want to print each bit here or each number in descending order. Example, I want to print 7485. So basically I want to break down this number and print it individually. So instead of using a for loop, watch, because see, we want to break this, right? And we don't know till what point we have to stop it. So what I will do, let me just remove this part. And okay, how do you break this? How do you print to 7, 4, 8, and 5? Okay, it's time to need some water. Okay, so basically we have this number which is 5847, right? We want to break it down. So we want to take it 7 outside. In fact, I should be using my whiteboard to explain this. Let me just use a whiteboard. Okay, so basically we have this number. I forgot the number. It was 5847, if I'm not wrong. So basically, first you have to take this 7, and then we have to break this number. So take this 7 out and make a new number which is 584. Then take this 4 out, then make the number as 58. Then take this 8 out, then make this number as 5 and print this 5. So basically, this is how you can divide this number, right? But then how can you divide this number? First of all, how will you get this 7? So for 7, you have to say 5847 mod 10. See, if you say mod 10, what you will get? 7, right? You will get the remainder. Now, once you get the remainder, how will you remove 584? Okay, so 5847. You have to divide this number by 10. If we divide this number by 10, it will make you 584, right? So these are the two operators you have to use. You will use percentage to get the remainder. You will use a division symbol to get the number. So let's try now. So let's go back to the idea. And here what we'll do is we'll write a loop. We'll do that. So let's say num is equal to, well, first we need remainder, right? So let's take a remainder which is int r equal to 0. And we'll say r is equal to num mod 10, which will give you remainder. And then we need to replace the num by dividing it by itself, by 10, right? But then we have to do this multiple times. For example, I can print the value of r, and let me also print the value of num, just to see what is happening. So if we do it once, you can see we got the output, which is 7 and the number. But if you do this multiple times, where is my cursor? Okay, let's do that multiple times here. 2, 3, 4. So I'm doing this 4 times, and if you run this code, you can see we got the output. This is what we wanted, right? We want 7, 4, 8, and 5. But don't you think we are doing the repetitive things? We are doing a crime here. So let's not do a crime. Let's put that in a loop, since we're doing the same thing. So we'll use a loop. Okay, which loop should I use here? Should I use a while loop or do while loop or a for loop? See, for loop doesn't make sense because we don't know the iterations. It will go for 4 iterations or 10 iterations because the number can be anything, right? It can be any big number. So we'll use a while loop here, and we'll say while num. So where do you want to stop? The moment your num is greater than 0, I mean, if it goes less than 0, then you have to stop. If the number is greater than 0, then you need to continue this. That's it. So when to use loop, for loop, when you know the iterations. When you don't know the iterations, if you just it's just because it's just about condition, always use a while loop. And use do while when you know we need to use the while, but you want to execute it at least once. Okay, so I can see a lot of parallel people are watching this. Hit that like button, everyone. So smash that like button, and if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe and do share with your friends. And that's my motivation to go live every Sunday. I want to enjoy my Sunday like this. It's fun. It's actually fun to go live and talking to you people, teaching different things. Maybe we can go some advanced topic in future as well. We can do live session on blockchain, Ethereum, Hyperledger. It will be fun, right? So let me go back. Cool. Now what next? So we have talked about loops. Okay, next we are going to talk about arrays. Okay, what is an array? So let's say, let me just remove here this thing as well. Okay, so what is an array basically? Okay, before starting with the array, let's do some fun. Oh, I love that intro. Okay, so okay, don't smash with your screen. Use your mouse there. Okay, good, good. Here we'll talk about how to take input from the user. We'll talk about this later. As of now, let's talk about arrays. So what is array basically? See, when you have one value. So let me go with here. See, basically, when you have one value, let's say 5. Now, what you will do is you will store this value in a variable x. Let's say you got another value which is 7, you will store this value in, let's say, y. You got another value which is 10, you will store this in a variable z. Let's say you have all these marks of, let's say, 50 students in your class. So you got 50 students and you want to store all their marks. Now, does it make sense to create 50 variables? Or should I create one big variable, or I will say one big variable as marks, and in this marks I should be able to store all the marks. Let's say 5, 7, 8, 12, 0. Someone should have scored 0, right? Someone should have scored 50. Someone should have scored 100. So I want to store all these marks in one variable, and that's where we can use a concept of arrays. Imagine all these things as marks, as cups. So array becomes a tree, right? Example, let's say if you want to serve tea to 5 people, let's say you got a guest at your home, you got 5 guests, okay, and now you want to serve them tea. What you will do? So of course you can carry those 4 cups You can carry 2 cups at a time because you have 2 hands, right? You can carry 2 cups. Otherwise, you can use your 4 fingers. I don't know if you have ever, yeah, if you have ever visited a tea stall where a person called Chotu will bring those tea, by this position. They will dip their fingers inside a cup so that they can carry 4 cups. Otherwise, you can use a tray, right? So carry a tray where you can carry all the cups. Okay, you tell me which is better. Of course, a tray, right? So let's use a tray here, right? So what we will do here is let's create an array. Now, how do you create an array? So basically, first you have to mention the type of array you're going to work with. So we are going to work with a int type array. But then how do you mention that it's an array? So you have to say marks, and then you have to use a square bracket. Now what this square bracket means is it's an array. It can contain multiple values. But then it will not be a simple variable, right? It will be a lot of values. So we'll use a new keyword to define all the values, to give space. So new variable is used to give space to all the values. So we'll use new and we'll say int and again square bracket. That's the syntax you have to follow. First you have to mention the type, then you have to mention the variable name, and then you have to mention the square bracket because that's how you define a array. Then you have to mention new keyword, which is used to assign the memory. And then again, you have to mention the type, because when you say you have to assign a memory, you have to mention the type of it, what type of memory you want. So I want an int type of memory. But how much you want? 5, 10, 50? So let's say I want only four values. That's your array, right? We can simply print this array by saying marks. What do you think? What it will print? And when you run this code, and we will get something weird. We got something like this. Now, what is this? We'll talk about that later in detail, okay? Remember this thing. We have something called as square bracket here. Then we have something called as @ symbol. We have something called I, and then some weird number. So we'll talk about it in some time. But as of now, I don't want to print marks as it is. First of all, I want to assign some values. Of course, right, we got an array which is empty. Okay, so Nitin says his 50% data is over today. So that's right, we got 3 hours. The next 3 hours you can consume the another 50%. Don't worry. Okay, cool. So now what I will do here is we got a variable, right? Let's assign the values. Now, how do you assign the values? Now, in marks, we got 4 boxes, right? You can imagine this in this way. So let me just open my whiteboard. So we got an array and we got a box and we got 4 lines here. Okay, so we got a box with 4 sections, and the name of this is marks. And every box here has a unique number. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Now the question would be why you have to start with 0 is because the index number starts with 0. Okay, so these are called index numbers. So these are index numbers. So index number starts with 0. And why 0? Because the numbering in computer starts with 0. In real world, we talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, but in virtual world, everything starts from 0. I want to assign a value here. I want to assign 5. I want to assign 4. I want to assign 8. I want to assign 7. I don't know why I love this number. So let's assign these values. So 5, 4, 8, and 7. So you can say marks of 0 index number is 5. And marks of 1 index number is, what was the number? I forgot the number. 4. And marks of 2 is 8. And marks of 3 is 7. That's it. We have assigned the values. Now, how do you print those values? So basically, we have to assign the index value. Which value you want to print? If you want to print the first value, Say I want to print the marks of 0, it will give you the output which is 5. If you want to print the index number of 2, it will give you 5. It will give you some value which is 8. If you assign the value, let's say 5, now you can see we don't have an index number 5 here. It will give you a very beautiful answer, actually a bad words, and says array index out of bound exception. Okay, so what is this? We'll talk about that later. As of now, we know we don't have any box with index number 5. Cool. So we'll talk more about array once we, so in the next section. So this was our first session of Java from 9 to 12. The next session will be having at, the next session we'll have at around 4 p.m. So 4 to 7 we have a next session. Okay, so we'll continue there. So in this session we have talked about what? We have talked about what is Java. Okay, so what is Java is a language using which you can make amazing applications. We have talked about how to use integrate IDE, which is IntelliJ in this case. We have talked about variables. We have talked about how Java works. We have talked about operators. We have talked about conditional statement, which is if-else and ternary operator. We have talked about loops, and now we are talking about arrays, which will continue later. In the next session, we'll talk about arrays. We'll talk about OOPS concept. We'll talk about collection API, exception handling. So we'll have fun in the next session as well. So 4 to 7 Indian time, we'll be again doing this. As I mentioned, we have a society meeting. I have to go there. And next, I have to. So let's do some questions. If you have any questions, happy to help. Okay, there's a question. Can we use a different syntax? Yes, instead of using square bracket at the end, we can also use square bracket at the start. This also works. Now, why this is preferred is because here we mentioned square bracket next to int, right? Okay, might not be visible properly. So we can also use this one. So everyone, if you are enjoying, hit that like button and make sure that you also come to for the next session, which will be amazing again. No, we are not going to cover Spring in this session. You should consider smaller session. Yeah, I should, but then I love long formats. So that's it from this video. I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye, everyone. See you at 4 p.m. IST. And do join it. Hit that like button and share this video. In fact, I would recommend you to rewatch this video so that you will get more confidence so that we can enjoy the next session. Okay, do rewatch it. And if you want to be in a very short format, though you don't have to watch entire 3 hours, you can watch. So you can find a description that I have assigned a video, if I'm not wrong. Watch that video for first 30 minutes and you should be good. Watch till arrays. So that's it, everyone. Bye-bye.